The candidates for U.S. Vice President, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz faced off in New York City last night for the first and only vice presidential debate of the 2024 election season. The civil 90-minute exchange offered a clear contrast of each party's priorities, particularly on the issues of abortion, the economy, immigration, and the environment. So what were the takeaways from last night's debate? Joining me now with analysis is Brent Keilen, Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at the Family Research Council and FRC Action. Brent, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thanks, Tony. Good to be with you.
So let's jump right into this to the debate. What were the major takeaways for you?
You know, there were a few things that jumped out at me. Like you said, it did really feel like a civil debate, and I appreciated it. Again, clear contrast. We had a lot of that, a lot of differentiation, but there was also a lot of respect for the person. So there's this statement, I feel like we can disagree on ideas, but we can also respect people.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen that.
It has. You know, it really has. It was
refreshing.
It was refreshing. It was. I was going to say that, too. It was refreshing. The thing that, to me, wasn't as refreshing is I felt like the moderators were kind of this continuation of what we saw of the presidential debate with the, quote, fact-checking in the debate with Trump and Harris. We saw them fact-check
It was
Trump.
very subtle. It was very subtle in last night's debate.
Yes, it was more subtle.
They were kind of throwing in these lines to as they would transition to the next candidate. But this is the legacy media can't help themselves.
Yeah.
This is what they do.
Yeah, and it was definitely more subtle than the presidential debate, but it was still also like a one-sided subtle,
Right.
if you will.
See, the thing about Washington Watch versus CBS News is that we tell people up front, look, we're going to talk about this from a biblical perspective. All right, we're not hiding that. We're going to tell you that. They don't tell you that they're coming at this from a humanist worldview when they talk about the news, and they're slanted toward the left. We're slanted toward the right, biblical truth. Now, not necessarily slanted toward a particular party or candidate, because I don't always agree with them, but we are slanted toward a worldview that is biblical in its foundation.
That's right. And there was a lot of differentiation on the issues last night. So they covered broad spectrum, and I thought we really did get that contrast, and it was some helpful information.
Let me play a couple clips. I'm going to play this clip regarding the topic of abortion, because this is where the fact-checking comes in. Play clip number 3.
After Roe versus Wade was overturned, you signed a bill into law that made Minnesota one of the least restrictive states in the nation when it comes to abortion. Former President Trump said in the last debate that you believe abortion, quote, in the 9th month is absolutely fine. Yes or no? Is that what you support? I'll give you 2 minutes.
That's not what the bill says. But look, this issue is what's on everyone's mind. Donald Trump put this all into motion.
All right, so that's not what the law says. He just moves on, doesn't talk about it. J.D. Vance, he presses in. Clip 6.
As I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric.
Okay, you say, no, that's not true. That's not true. This continues, clip 8.
Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look, I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, getting engaged, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate.
Okay, it was fact-checked. Brent, let's fact-check the fact-checkers. What does the law say?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like those were absolutely deceptive comments by Governor Walz. If you look at what the law actually says, so as you pointed out in the clips there, this came up two different times in the debate last night. One was in the context of, do you actually support abortion through all 9 months? That was one. Then later, J.D. Vance circled back to that born alive abortion survivors protection issue. So if you look at the born alive issue, Governor Walz has signed state legislation on this. Now, they asked him the question about that. J.D. Vance says, by my reading, please explain how I'm wrong. This is what it looks like it does. But what the law did, Tony, is it removed the words, to preserve the life and health of the born alive infant. I can quote you the statute. This was subdivision 1 of Minnesota statute 145.423. It removed that phrase, quote, to preserve the life and health of the born alive infant, end quote, and just left the word care, not even medical care. That's such a broad term. So this was a very deliberate law change. Maybe they didn't realize the ramifications, but that is just astounding that you would deny that.
So Minnesota joined the ranks of about a dozen states that have no laws protecting children, babies that survive an abortion and are born alive.
That is absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct.
But that's what the fact checker said we were wrong in when I flagged that in the last debate.
Well, and it's interesting because you see this strategy playing out after the last debate. You have, Kamala Harris saying, "Hey, late-term abortion just doesn't happen. It's not a thing." Governor Walz is really parroting the same strategy where they're like, this doesn't happen.
They can't defend it, and so they want to get away from it.
And they're trying. It's an absolute dodge. If you look at what else he did as governor, Tony, getting back to that question, and they gave him the chance to say, what's your actual position? What do you support? Former President Trump said you support through all 9 months. Do you support that? He didn't even say, I don't support that. He just said, again, that's not what the law does. Let's look at what those Minnesota laws did that he signed. The law he signed, it allows abortion at any point in pregnancy, at any point, no restrictions. And it also jeopardizes laws like parental consent and in conscience objections. So it does. Like Minnesota has radical abortion laws, and that, to me, was just a very outright lie, saying that's not what the law does, because it is what it does.
I actually think that, in large part, is why he was selected as her running mate. Minnesota is not a swing state. It brings nothing to the presidential ticket. Usually you look for a vice presidential candidate. Like J.D. Vance makes sense from a political standpoint because Ohio is a swing state, big state. It would have made more sense to go to Pennsylvania. Shapiro would have been a better, pick from a political standpoint. When I say political, electoral standpoint, when you look at the Electoral College. The only rationale I can see on Walz is his radical positions, in particular on abortion and the transgender issue.
It's kind of interesting if you look at his actual record, because he's couched as a moderate, like a Midwestern moderate. I think part of the calculus is kind of counting on his kind of folksy. He's got kind of that folksy demeanor, and
Well, last night he looked like a moonshiner caught in headlights. I mean, I wouldn't call it folksy. I would call it like he had no clue as to what he was doing.
There were definitely some bad moments in the debate for him.
All right, so let's, we just got a couple minutes left. Brent Keilen, let's talk about the election coming up. We're we're just a little over 30 days away. FRC Action has some resources available. Talk about what people can access to help them not only get registered and voting, but also informed voting.
Absolutely. Tony, we're pretty excited. We're actually releasing this in tandem with the Pray Vote Stand Summit this week. But in the FRC Stand Firm app, there's a comprehensive toolkit. This is all free. It is exclusively in the Stand Firm app. But if you get the toolkit there, what it has is practical information like voter guides. So you have the FRC Action Presidential Voter Guide, the party platform comparison, which is important, and also iVoter Guide, which covers the federal races in all 50 states and a lot of the other state and local races as well.
And that's personalized.
Yes, it will be. When those guides are finalized for your state, you type in your address and it will personalize all of the races covered.
So how can people get access to the toolkit?
Again, it's in the Stand Firm app. So you download that app. You can also text in the word toolkit to 67742. That'll take you to a link to download the Stand Firm app, and then just look for the 2024 toolkit. Got a lot of great resources in that.
Toolkit, one word, toolkit 67742. You'll get a link. You can get the app. That way you can download the app, and then you have the toolkit and all the other resources, including the daily edition of Washington Watch.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Brent, 30 seconds, Pray Vote Stand Summit. What do people need to be prepared for?
Come, like you said, pray, come ready to receive from some, I think, great experts. We have some really, really good people who are going to be sharing. One of my favorite things to hear from people after the event is, I'm encouraged, I'm not alone. I hope people walk away with that from this year as well.
It is a big huddle.
Yes,
For
yes,
the
I love that.
spiritually minded.
Yes.
And by the way, if you can't be here, you still got time to get here, but if you can't be here, you can join us and watch most of it on the Real Life Network, the Real Life app. You can get that. That's with our Jack Hibbs and Real Life, Pastor Jack. They're our title sponsor for this year's Pray Vote Stand Summit. All right, Brent Keilen, I'll see you at Pray Vote Stand.
Sounds good, Tony. Appreciate it.
Until then, just keep standing, all right?